Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome. I wanted to do this on Friday the 13th, and technically it is still Friday the 13th, but most of you probably don't see this on Saturday the 14th, so happy late Friday the 13th. So I'm wearing this Jason t-shirt, which you can't see because of the lighting, but yeah. Crystal Lake Memories, the complete history of Friday the 13th. This had two Blu-rays. I guess there's two Blu-rays because of the commentary, because they had to put so much info on it, so they had to spread out into two. And there were two DVDs, but I gave that to a friend, so I just kept the bonus disc, which you did if you pre-order from the site. And if you know my channel, you know I wasn't really the biggest fan of how they released this, because I thought it was pretty disorganized. People pre-ordered it. Some people got it weeks and weeks later, even though they lived closer. And some people got tracking numbers. Some people didn't. Some people didn't get their bonus disc. Some people did. And I thought it was very inconsistent and pretty disorganized. That's my personal opinion. I've dealt with a lot of websites, companies. Never had that happen before. I mean, even a simple, okay, it's been sent out. We don't have a tracking number, but it's been sent out. But some people got it. Some people didn't. It is what it is. I'm just glad I have this, and I can say I really enjoyed this. I would say I enjoyed this as much as Never Sleep Again. The documentary itself is 6 hours long and spread out into 13 chapters. And then the bonus disc, which I really like the bonus disc, is 4 hours of bonus stuff. For those curious, I know a friend of mine will ask, there's not a lot of stuff with Danny Steinman. You might be asking. There's a teeny bit more, but it's not like very in depth. There's also a little bit more Richard Brooker, like how he got the job, which I thought was pretty cool. So you get a little bit to them, but not like tons more. But I was fine with what they had in the film. But Crystal Lake Memories, this is a really good documentary. It's very in depth. It's a lot of info, a lot of people they got for the interviews. I do have nitpicks with it, like I did with Never Sleep Again. But I will say it is much better than His Name Was Jason. I was very dissatisfied with His Name Was Jason. I still keep it because I like the second disc, the bonus disc, but the feature presentation was not the biggest fan of. I thought they really could have done a lot better with it because it's 90 minutes long and it seems like 70% of this was personalities, internet celebrity personalities. I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude. I don't care about the guy from Psych. I don't care TV show. I don't care about Seth Green or Adam Green or Joe Lynch or especially people who run horror websites like Shot Till You Drop's Ryan Rotten or whoever the hell his name is or Uncle Creepy from Blade Disgusting. I don't care about the websites. I don't care about their opinions, and most importantly, I don't care that they really try to spend it trying to be funny like it's the stand-up comedy hour. Especially Uncle Creepy. I don't like Uncle Creepy. He also did a commentary for these movie trailers on another DVD I have for grindhouse trailers and horror film trailers, and it seemed like he didn't know what the hell he was talking about most of the time. I'm like, you run a horror film website. Yeah, I'm jealous because we're both bald, and yet he runs a horror website and gets money, and I don't. So yeah, I'm absolutely jealous of this guy, Uncle Creepy, because I don't think he's funny, and he didn't bring any info, any interest, or anything worth of note of a fart to whether His Name Was Jason when he's interviewed. Just nude erotic shaving, trying to be funny. You know what? Go in front of a mirror, have some nude erotic shaving, because that's what you're obsessed about, and do it in your home, away from everyone, including any DVDs, commentaries for the rest of your life and the rest of your natural life. Nothing against you personally, but I don't think Uncle Creepy is funny. I don't give a fuck about his website. I never even go to Blade. I rarely go to Blade Disgusting. When I do, don't care about, so I leave. But anyway, the reason I mentioned His Name Was Jason is that they do pull interviews from that to put in this. Like Adrian King, I'm guessing Amy Steele was, uh, Joe Zito, a lot of other people who were interviewed for His Name Was Jason. They put those interviews here. As well as they did get a lot of new interviews as well. And I know some people got a little bit mad about that. I can understand that, but I wasn't too mad because I wasn't a fan of His Name Was Jason. And I'm a fan of the second disc, but the first disc I thought was a fluff piece just so that because the 2009 film was either coming out or yeah, I think it was coming out. And that's the only reason it was done. It seemed like it was rushed. It seemed like you could tell they didn't. This wasn't what maybe the makers had in mind. That's why they redid it. And I got to see more. I got to see the extensions of those interviews, which I was happy with. And it didn't make me mad because it was only a couple years after. If it was like they did interviews from 1990, like if they took interviews from, I mentioned like this, and some stuff is falling down. But if they took interviews from this box set, from this, when they did interviews back then I'd be like, come on. I mean, but if it's only been a few years, they don't have the same type of conversation. And, like, for example, Friday the 13th, what more can you know about the first Friday the 13th film that has been said? And if you're wondering what these other DVDs are, considering I dropped some, little quick light, wearing shorts because it's got the heater on, and I'm not turning the heater off because if I do, it would be like an ice cube. So I'd rather have shorts on than have an ice cube where my balls were. But if you're wondering what I have, which you're not, but I'm going to show it anyway because that's what I do in my videos. I have the original box set, which has movies 1 through 8, where they had it 2 per disc, 2 movies per disc, which I was fine with because I don't need them on Blu-ray. This is the only way you get Friday the 13th Part 3, the commentary, which has the cast, including like Danny Kimmel and the guy who played Shelley and the guy who played Danny Kimmel's boyfriend and Richard Brooker as Jason. They do a commentary of Part 3. It's a very fun commentary. So maybe that's why I know a friend of mine was disappointed with that Richard Brooker. I think because I had this commentary track which he's on it, so that was fine. I was fine with. Part 5 and Part 6. Part 6 you have a commentary with Tom McLaughlin, which is a different one from when they did the special editions. Then they have a commentary with Part 7 with John Carl Beadle and Kane Hodder, which I think is different from the Part 7 because I think that has a lot of Part Lincoln. Part 8, this has a commentary with the director Rob Heaton. Plus you have a bonus disc, which has this stuff on there. So I have that box set. I want to get the rest of these, so I only have a couple. I would like to get Part 1 and Part 2, because they have features on it. Part 3 has no features, so I don't need it. But I don't have Part 1 and Part 2, and I don't have Part 7. So 1, 2, and 7, one day I'd like to get. But I do have Part 4 Deluxe Edition. If you want to know the features, look up online. Part 5, which has the commentaries. They all have commentaries. Part 6, and little making-ofs, with some other bullshit stuff. Part 8, which has commentary with Kane Hodder, Jensen Daddy, and Scott Reeves. Now, of course, you know, Freddy vs. Jason. And before that, you had Jason X. Before that, you had Jason Goes to Hell. All these have commentaries on them. And this one, which the reboot, which had nothing on it. Like a little teeny behind the scenes, which was nothing much of anything. And then His Name Was Jason. So I have a lot of Friday 30. Plus, I do have the Crystal Lake Memories book. But I do want to get Part 1, 2, and 7 on the deluxe editions just to sort of finish it off. But anyway, I know 10 minutes, I'm barely talking about the documentary. But it's going to be a long one, because the documentary itself is 6 hours long, plus a 4-hour bonus disc. And the biggest compliment I can give this is I was never bored. I watched this last night. Well, most of it. Well, I watched the 6-hour documentary. And then today I had stuff to do. And I watched the over 4-hour bonus disc. And then I had other stuff to do. That's why I'm doing this so late. When I watched the 6-hour documentary, I never got bored. I never got tired. I never got up and did this and did that. I just sat there and I was really interested. Even if it's stuff I heard before, I barely remember what was on His Name Was Jason because I've seen the documentary itself once because that's how I was kind of perturbed. The bonus disc I've seen more than once, but his name was Jason itself I thought was really lame way because again 70% was like who the fuck is Ryan Rodden? Who the fuck is Uncle Creepy? Great, we're both bald and we're both fat, okay? But no one wants to hear my fat ass. And I'm not going to call him a fat ass. That's just a fact. No one wants to hear me on a documentary on Friday the 13th when they want to hear more about the makers of Friday the 13th and the people who were cast in Friday the 13th. And that's what I like about this. It's like Never Sleep Again. From beginning to end, it's the people who made it. It's the people involved, whether it be the editors, directors. And yeah, there's still quite a bit of people that you don't hear. You don't have Kevin Bacon. You don't have Tony Goldwyn from Part 6. You don't have Terry Kaiser, who was Bernie, Weekend Bernie's from he was also in Part 7. You don't have Crispin Glover. You don't have Peter Mensah, who was the guy like in Jason X, who was the black guy, who was like the military guy. You don't have him. You don't have Scott Reeves from Part 8, which I swear he's on the little making of from Part 8 here, and he's on the commentary. So I don't know why they didn't get Scott Reeves. He's not on the bonus disc either, because I don't mind Scott Reeves. At least he seems like a nice guy on the commentary, so I like to hear him. Even if it's my least favorite Friday the 13th film, Part 8, I still like to hear him. So that was kind of strange. But, like, unfortunately, you don't have, for example, Nick Savage. He's the third biker in Friday the 13th Part 3. Like, they have the other two. One, I think, was on His Name Was Jason the Girl. But I like that hers is extended. Even on the bonus disc, you do a bit more extended stuff as well on the bonus disc. And yeah, I like the bonus disc. And it's sad that they didn't... Yeah, some stuff that's filler. So I'm not saying it's eye-opening. Oh my god, I never knew that. Like the first two films are maybe 15 minutes each of stuff they didn't put in there. But there's still quite a bit of good stuff in this. Including Fred Mullen, who he's not on the commentary... He's not on the documentary, but on the bonus disc, Fred Mullen did the music for the TV series Part 7, Part 8, and he's talks a bit about Part 7, Part 8 in the TV series. And you have interesting stuff like VC Dupree on Part 8 talking about how the lead girl, yeah, she doesn't want me to say this, but that dog pissed on her. And I know, Jay, you don't want me to say it, but that dog pissed on you. So you got some fun stuff in the bonus disc. It was fun to watch. But, like, the Nick Savage, he's the black guy, one of the three bikers. I don't know if he passed away. That could be why. And if so, that's sad. If not, that's too bad they didn't get him. And there's a few others. I'm like, oh, that's too bad they didn't get them. But they got a lot of people. It even says here, over 150 cast and crew members. And they got a lot of people, including Tom Matthews and Jennifer Cook from Friday the 13th Part 6. Part 5, you had Pamela, you had the Voorhees girl with nice tits from Part 5, who was on His Name Was Jason, but you got to hear more about her. You hear from the lead girl from Part 5, Danny Steinman. Frank Mancuso Jr., who produced a lot of these, he's in there, which was really cool. Kind of made me respect him a bit more than I probably did in the past, I will admit. I have a bit more respect for Frank Mancuso Jr. Just a lot of great, interesting stories. Even the stuff that's recycled from the first film, I like that. From His Name Was Jason, I like that. First off, it's in a better product with a better presentation. Before I get into it, it starts out with Corey Feldman, sort of kind of a page from Friday the 13th Part 2 with John Fury and the campfire. But Corey Feldman does a narration. I thought he did a good job narrating. And when they're interviewing him, he's not trying to be funny like some interviews. He's just... Like, when he says he thought it was Halloween, he literally thought his mom told him that they were going up for Halloween. So that's why he says that. It's not him trying to have a shitty joke. It's his mom literally told him that it was supposed to be Halloween, and he arrived, and, oh, it's Friday the 13th. But I like that Corey Feldman, he wasn't trying to be funny. It was just... And he did a good job narrating. I thought he did a good job. So it was a nice choice. I thought it was... It was an easy sit-through. It has 13 chapters from... And each chapter, it starts off kind of like how the movie itself starts off. So I like that little nice touch on the way it opens. Yeah, a lot of good info, stuff I didn't even know. I don't want to give it all away, but just a couple. And yeah, there's gonna be some stuff that you heard on His Name Was Jason, but it's also extended stuff. But I rather, if you don't take the good stuff from this, like the 15 minutes of good stuff, and put it in this. Wrapped up, it's like if you have a burger. Okay, I like the burger, but it's on a shitty bun. Get a good bun, and everything else wrapped around it, and now, save the burger, leave the rest. Or maybe like the cheese. Leave the cheese. I like the cheese. Get rid of the other shit. Put on a good burger. Home of the good burger. May I take your order? But they start off with how Sean Cunningham got involved and how it all happened. And you pretty much know everything about Friday the 13th, so it's not like you don't find much new. But they interview, for example, the girl who played Kevin Bacon's girlfriend. They interview the cop. They talked a bit about Crazy Ralph. Harry Manfredini is interviewed. Then Frank Mancuso Jr., especially on the sequels. Friday the 13th Part 2 is nice to hear more from Amy Steele. Nice to hear from John Fury. They touch a bit on why John Fury disappeared. They touch a bit on that. They touch on Warrington Gillette, which is old footage, but a little bit. Steve Dash is there as well. They touch on Part 3. I'm just going real quickly. I don't want to give everything away. I mean, look for see it for yourself. But like Part 3, for example, I did not know that originally for the idea for 3D, Paramount was thinking, well, what do we have 3D? Star Trek. We'll have Star Trek in 3D. It's like, Star Trek in 3D? I never knew that Star Trek The Search for Spock was going to be 3D. But no, they have Friday the 13th Part 3D. I'm like, wow, cool. That's pretty cool. I swear one of the biker guys, not the girl, but the white biker guy, I swear in an interview, he sounds like Woody Allen. So, it makes me think of the Dead Bane with Don Johnson. It's like, you sound like Woody Allen. Well, he said you look like Woody Allen. He kind of looked like Woody Allen too. So I was going to do a Don Johnson, like, you would look like Woody Allen. He sounded like Woody Allen too. So Woody Allen was in Friday the 30th Part 3 as a biker. But a lot of them, they got Tracy Savage, who was a journalist for CNN or such. She's interviewed. They interview. Let's see, go for Part 4. You got Corey Feldman, a new interview. Kimberly Beck, the mom, the girl played the mom. You get some of the guys who get killed, like the twins, the guy who, yeah, some of it's from His Name Was Jason, but you see some of the extended stuff, like the dead fuck. Computer don't lie. That was actually an improv, which, wow, that was cool. Part 5, you have like a moment where Danny Steinman, the editor who had worked on like Spielberg and Lucasfilms as assistant editor, he got his editing job here, and the rough footage of a sex scene, and Danny Steinman's like, fuck her harder, grab her tits, grab her pussy. And the guy's like, well, what am I supposed to do, Frank Mancuso Jr.? And he goes, made you look like a Pepsi commercial. So that's what I mean. You did some pretty fun info. I mean, Part 6, you have info like Tom McLaughlin was being fucked over by this penny pension motherfucker. You got Tom Matthews interviewed. You got Jennifer Cook, who played Megan. She's interviewed. The guy who played the sheriff was interviewed. Uh, Part 7, they talk about the ratings board raping the movie. They even confirm. I mean, I'm sure this has been said before, but this was like the nail in the coffin. Part 7, New Blood, will never, ever see a director's cut. And they confirmed it. They said, it was like this is where I saw the hammer down, where you will never see an uncut because the footage just isn't there. They have the rough shit, but the actual footage, not the stuff that they shot, like dailies and stuff, because they can't do anything with that. But the original was destroyed, thrown away. So you will never see a true uncut version of Friday the 13th Part 7. And I'm like, I do wish they would have just asked Frank Mancuso Jr. What the fuck, dude? What were you guys thinking? I wish. Um, but I think even then, like he was sort of away from the franchise. I know somewhere around that. I think a little bit after he wanted to do the TV series Friday the 13th, which they talked about that as well. They have John LeMay talk about extended him talking about the series. But part 7, like that's another thing I didn't know. Like part 7 was known as Friday the 13th, part 7, because apparently a lot of the actors were gay. Like just the black guy and William Butler and Kevin Blair were gay, and I think there was another guy or so who's gay. I've never heard Friday the 13th Part 7 called Friday the 13th Part 7, but the people, I guess it was on set that or something. They came up with the name Friday the 13th Part 7 because apparently there's a lot of people who happen to be gay. I never knew that. Never heard that term Friday the 13th Part 7. That's what I mean. It was cool that even me finding stuff out was cool. And I have the Crystal Lake Memories book, but I read that a long time ago, and I still have it. It's in my other room. But I haven't read that in forever, and I know that one is even more in-depth than this, because it's a book. You could be more in-depth. You could have, like, hundreds of pages. It'd be, like, 30 hours to put that on a thing. Well, more like probably, let's say, 10, no, like 12 hours, probably, seriously. But, at least. But you find a lot of info, like part 8. Apparently, there was actually another guy who was in the Scott Reeves role, but that guy got fired, let go, and I'm like, I never knew that. And they talk about part 9, part 10. Of course, Freddy vs. Jason, which I'm sure a lot of that Freddy vs. Jason was from Never Sleep Again, but they they have a couple of new people in there as well. And then they talk about the reboot, which is good because this one has nothing for features. So it's nice to have more about the making of the 2009 film, which I still like the 2009 film. I still like the film. So you have more info on that. Getting the film started, that apparently there was a lot of friction, a lot of changes in the script. Derek Mears just goes on the show just how much of a nice guy he and a fan he is. Just makes you love the guy even more watching this. A lot of info. And the way it's done, you have a lot of photographs, behind the scenes footage, some stuff that was on the cutting block, posters, uh, a lot of stuff in there. A lot of people interviewed. It just the way it was handled, presented, you knew that they were trying. Like his name was Jason. I would say if they were trying, someone fucked up along the way. I mean, look at this. The ultimate retrospective. I think this one beats that. So it's really one of those things that they should not have. They should have just took their time and just released this. But what can you do? It is what it is, and I just like the way it was presented, and it moved at a fast pace, and like the bonus disc, which is an additional 4 hours, which you can only get if you pre-order it on their website. So it's sad that other people won't be able to have this bonus disc, but I like the bonus disc. You get quite a bit of info, extensions, probably some of the stuff that you saw in His Name Was Jason, but also some new stuff as well. And it's one of those things that it's hard to pinpoint everything because you watch everything, it's 10 hours. But I just remember liking the bonus disc as well. I thought some of it I can understand why it wasn't in the final product, but some of it I thought it was actually pretty damn decent stuff. So this bonus disc should have been with every copy. I'm sorry, it's ridiculous that fans out there, some of them won't have this bonus disc. I think that's shitty. I'm not saying it's fantastic, but oh yeah, there's 50 more minutes of Richard Brooker or Danny Steinman talking. No, that's not the case. But you do get quite a few more little interesting stuff, which I thought was really cool. And then being a Friday the 13th fan, it was just nice to watch. 4 more hours of stuff, people talking about it. I thought that was pretty cool. So, I do have nitpicks. And people are, what do you mean by nitpicks? Nitpicks about it would be, again, kind of wondering why certain people, like, maybe they didn't want to, but like Peter Mensa from Jason X or Scott Reeves from Part 8 or, certain other people like the Nick Savage guy from Part 3. Maybe he's no longer with us, I don't know. But it seems like there's certain stuff that I either wish that they had talked about or wish they had extended on. For example, let's see, like Part 3. No, Part 2, actually. Part 2, they give Corey Feldman, who's narrating, to say about how, well, some people say that some of the death scenes were ripped off from a film before called Twitch of the Death Nerve. Then they have Sean Cunningham talk about 10 seconds about seeing that Twitch of Death Nerve after. And then they drop it. And I'm like, okay, you brought it up. Are you going to ask people production? So what do you feel about people saying that some of the death scenes were ripped off? Because you have this and this and that. And they don't. And I'm like, well, why did you bring it up if you're not going to ask people about it? Or Part 7. They mentioned how the two leads, Laura Parlington and Kevin Blair, there was friction between them. And they asked some of the other actors about it, but they don't ask Laura Parlington herself and Kevin Blair himself. Was there friction between you two? What was it about? And I'm like, why are you asking the other cast? I'm guessing it's because this was footage from His Name Was Jason, and at the time, or at least I'm guessing both of them was probably from His Name Was Jason. And the people that they're asking about, that the other cast members were the ones that were brought in afterward to do this. So maybe that's an aspect where I can say, you know what, it would have been nice to bring them back and ask them again. That's one thing that I can say, okay, if you brought them back, you could ask them about these certain aspects, like, okay, I heard you two had friction, what's the deal? But, again, I call it, for me, it's nitpicks. I think for others it might be a little bit more, but for me it's little nitpicks like that. For example, how come in Part 4 they don't really talk about the death scene with the hacksaw? The hacksaw, and then the guy gets his head twisted. How come they don't have times when you talk about that effect in Crystal Lake Memories? How come they don't talk about... I would love to hear someone actually talk about in Part 8 how the fuck New York every year has toxic waste in the sewers. They mentioned some of the other weird stuff, but, toxic waste in the sewers of New York? I would like to hear an explanation of who thought of that. Rob Hedden, however you say his name. Which I do think Part 8 kind of got off a little too easily. I think it could have been trashed quite a bit. Like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 was on Never Sleep Again, but that's just, it is my least favorite, so I would say, that should have been, trashed a little bit. Or about how, I would like to hear, like, Kane Howard talk about how the makeup of Jason himself was not really that good, little talk about that. Like, this little stuff. Like, Part 3, talk about Nick Savage's character. Like, how come, like, okay, he pops up at the end so Jason can kill him. Talk about that idea of that scene. Or talk about Peter Mensa from Jason X, who's a guy who won't stay dead, and about how I remember hearing there was going to be some gravity fight between him and Jason. It's like Keanu mentions a little bit about Jason on wires and how that looked kind of hokey, but they don't even mention Peter Mensa, which I thought he was one of my favorite actors. Jason X. Why didn't they mention him? And so like there's little things like that I'm like, why didn't they mention that? Why didn't they mention Peter Mensa and Jason X? I swear Jason X, like, there was more angry... Reading the Crystal Lake Memories book, there was a lot more anger about Jason X than in the documentary itself. on both His Name Was Jason, which someone was taken from, and Crystal Lake Memories. It just seemed there was a lot more anger about the product in the book Crystal Lake Memories. So, it's one of those things like, I think they could have gone a little bit more in depth with that. They do a little bit on that, but that's what I mean. I think there's a couple little things that they could have touched a bit more on. Like, part 5, I would love to hear about John Shepard having to do karate stuff, kung fu stuff. I think that would have been fun. And no, they don't mention on the bonus disc, like, how he just does the fuck you, flip on the guy. Literally flip out on a guy. Literally flip out. He flips the guy out onto the table. I mean, yeah, I'd like to hear a bit more about that. About how Tommy, like, knows kung fu. A little, and I think there could have been a little bit more. I understand, like, Danny Steinman, a little bit of maybe him defending himself a bit more about, well, what you. But again, I don't know if it's because some of the stuff was shot with His Name Was Jason. So I think maybe that's why people are like, they take something His Name Was Jason. They could have brought them back and asked them these questions. Like, people say you said this. What are your thoughts on it, Danny Steinman? What are your thoughts on this? Blah, 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 blah. And I think you did a lot more of that in Crystal Lake Memories, the book. I think that's the thing about the book is that, if you had the book, you pretty much set on Friday the 13th, the book, the Crystal Lake Memories book. But, there's little stuff like that, but I still consider it little stuff because having all this stuff, again, I know I want to get Friday the 13th Part 1, 2, and 7, the deluxe editions, just to have it very complete. Part 3, deluxe edition, there's no features at all, so I don't need that. I mean, my older DVD has a commentary. The new one has nothing. So the 1, 2, and 7, I would like to have that just to complete. But other than that, with the book and all this and this, you still got a lot of stuff. You get a lot of information on the films. Like how the original idea for Friday the 13th Part 3 with Amy Steele and the mental institution and Jason coming after her. Corey Feldman's thoughts on what they could have done with Part 5 if the Goonies did not come up. Thoughts on how Danny Steinman seems like, again, sometimes he wasn't the nicest guy, or how that one's even a bit more sleazy than the others. Oh, they talked to the two people, like Junior and Ethel, the two redneck people in Part 5. They talked to them, which was fun that they talked to them. Part 8, again, it was nice to see VC Dupree because he seems like a nice guy. Him talking about stuff in Part 8. Part 9, it was nice to hear from the girl who was the agent at the beginning of the film, because she seemed like a fun girl. I don't know, just the way she talked, she seemed like a fun girl. Erin Gray, who was in the TV show, was it Buck Rogers, I believe? I didn't see the show, but Erin Gray, they got her interviewed about Jason Goes to Hell. I thought, wow, that's kind of surprising. Let's see. I'm trying to think. There's just so much stuff. It's hard to keep talking about without going for an hour long. But so yeah, there are nitpicks I have. Certain stuff that I'm like, oh, I would have liked to hear that, but they have a lot of information and a lot of stuff that I never had heard of before, which again is weird for me. And it's put in a great presentation. It goes at a fast pace. Again, a lot of either behind the scenes footage or info or photographs and interviews where you hear a lot of nice bits of tidbits that pretty much, if I watch this stuff, I probably find, the commentaries, I probably find not all, but quite a few of those bits of info. And if I read the Crystal Lake Memories book, I'll find the rest. So there you go. But if you're a Friday the 13th fan, you need to have this. This is definitely one of the best, or maybe the best release of 2013. It was great to watch. Great to hear like Betsy Palmer talk about how when Siskel and Ebert, especially Gene Siskel, gave her address, and she responds about that. Betsy Palmer, and she responds about how they wanted her back for Freddy versus Jason and such. And uh, they, yeah, a lot of stuff is talked about though. A lot of stuff. I mean, the fact that they decided to do 6 hours, over 6 hours for from part one to the reboot. Not the Halloween documentary, 25 Years of Terror, is not 6 hours long. So it's hard. Not only is it hard, but I'm not going to complain about this that much. Again, I have little nitpicks, but at the end of the day, it was very well done, very well handled. A lot of good bits of info, behind the scenes, interviews. I thought it was really well handled, and it showed that these people cared. Like this one, I can say, you know what, they cared what they were doing. They wanted a good product, and they made a damn good product. They made a damn good documentary, and I can only give the big praise. 2 thumbs up, things like that. And Never Sleep Again is great, and this is great as well. It's a great companion piece to Never Sleep Again. And I will, you know what, considering I liked it so much, I will give the commentary a listen, because now I'm curious to see what exactly happens on the commentary. So I'll give that a listen, because that's how much I liked it. So you probably don't see this on Saturday the 14th, so happy Saturday the 14th, but that's why I have this on in a couple videos, because I wanted to, but so didn't get to it sooner, but found out I wanted to watch it, and I was not disappointed. That's really, in a year filled with disappointments, I can safely say I was not disappointed in Crystal Lake Memories. And considering what kind of person I am, that's a big thing. So it's a great tribute to one of the horror's most iconic and enduring franchises, and I agree. So I know there's talk of a new Friday the 13th film, no found footage shit. You can go with the simple put them in the snow with Jim Isaacs. May he rest in peace. He mentioned that was one of the ideas for Jason 10 was put it in the snow, or put it in a city and do Part 8 the right way. Those should be the two choices. That's just my personal thought on that. Because found footage is stupid. I'm glad they're making another one, but no found footage. But yeah, I like the fact they talked about the new one, the 2009, for about 30 minutes. That's another one that I wish they had gotten the Asian guy, Aaron Yoon? Aaron Woo? I forget his name, unfortunately. The guy who played the character of Chewie in Friday the 13th. I forget his name, though. And I'm doing this because I know I'm sure I fucked up the name. Yeah, Aaron Yu for Friday the 13th. It's sad they didn't interview him, and they don't have Padalecki, but he's probably busy with Supernatural, the TV show, and such. I think that's still on. I could be wrong. But it's too bad they didn't get him, because I liked his character in the 2009 film. But they got a few of the people, and the director, and the cinematographer, and producer, and such. And he has some good bits of info too, even the release about how the second week it went down to 80%, and a lot of the bad feedback from fans. And they show some of the feedback from fans, like not video wise, but article wise. But I thought they did a really good job with this. The presentation, the transition from movie to movie, or transition of photograph to interview to this and that. Thought they did a really good job, and I thought it flowed very well. I never got bored for 6 hours, and that's saying a lot. So, give the biggest praise I can for Crystal Lake Memories. I thought they did a good job. Didn't want to spoil it all, so a lot of other good bits of info for you guys to check out. And yes, I do like the bonus disc as well. Although, again, you have like Richard Brooker talking about how he just walked in for the part and he didn't know there was a line of people there, and That might have been a little bit on His Name Was Jason, but it was nice to hear it on here. And again, I'll just either watch His Name Was Jason, or I'll watch other stuff as well, like the commentary he's on part 3. That's what I mean. Like, if I didn't get enough here, I got other stuff, and back and forth. But you get some good bits of info on the film. So I do like the bonuses. I'm glad at the end of the day that I did get the bonuses, because it's over 4 hours of stuff, extended stuff, which I'm fine with. So I'm happy with that. So despite all the problems with the release of the documentary and inconsistency, disorganization, at the end of the day, I've said this the 5th time now, it's a fuck little better than this, because this seemed like fluff, filler, discombobulated, disjointed, and this one, like, it was hard to sit through this for 90 minutes, but this was 6 hours, not including the bonus disc, and it was easy to sit through. So it just goes to show you that when you do it right, you do it right. So thanks for watching, take care, and we will see you later. Happy Friday the 13th.